Welcome back to Parenting Shrink Wrap. Melissa and Sam here. And today we want to talk to you about taking vacations. It's spring break time, it's March, and a lot of families travel at this time of year. So we want to figure out and explore with everybody today a conversation about taking a family vacation and making it meaningful, but not coming back as the parent who says they need another vacation. So, and I think we've all been there sometimes as parents, even if it's not a long vacation. It could be a day trip, it could be a weekend, it could be the week or 2 week long trip. It should be a vacation for you too, not just the kids.
Mm-hmm. So let's when we're talking about what is a vacation, I used to think that growing up that my family didn't really take vacations, but that was false, and that's just because we did not buy plane tickets or make reservations at a resort or like we did not go places as a family unless we could drive there. And generally, it was rare was the travel where we paid to sleep somewhere.
Okay.
We were staying at my grandparents' house or at friends' houses for the weekend who had houses in cool destinations, right, that we could drive to. So my family's vacations were not there were always other
You weren't
people.
jet setting to Europe,
No,
Sam.
no, 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 we were not. And I used to think my family didn't take vacations, but that's not the truth because we definitely did things together where there were breaks in the action, even if they were on a budget.
And that I would frame as a vacation.
They were a vacation, and
Any
I have fond
experience away
memories.
from home as a family, as a shared experience, definitely counts.
Yeah, yeah. Would you count if you don't leave the house, is it a vacation? If you or is it a staycation?
I think I'd probably put that as a staycation, but
Uh-huh.
I think it depends on what happens during that time.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well,
So,
regardless, right? So, we're talking about a break in the action. And I don't know, in my experience, vacations, I often look forward to them. And then things happen on them that, are temporarily really stressful. You if
I'm
not,
cracking up because Sam is going on a trip to Costa Rica, and the last time one of our previous family vacations is a trip to Costa Rica, and we were in a very, very remote part of Costa Rica. And the amount of things that happened to my kids during that trip that were stressful, including something that happened to myself, was extremely something
you
that
mean
you would.
like health
So,
things?
health things.
Okay.
Um, there was a GI bug in one of my kids. Um, my daughter fell out of bed and probably broke her nose, but was at an age where you don't really do anything for a broken nose. Um, my middle child needed stitches, and I got stung by a scorpion.
Well, you're not really advertising Costa Rica
I
as
love
the best.
Costa Rica, Sam. You know this. Um, during a 10-day, 2 week trip to Costa Rica.
Yeah. Okay. So vacations
And I would still go back to Costa Rica to the same exact spot, and we still had a wonderful time. But there was definitely some stressful experiences.
Okay, so that's the thing about vacations is sometimes I think we have these expectations that they are going to be the be all and end all, the relaxation that we need from the break in our fast paced, whatever action packed life we're leading, right? And we hope that they are, but if we put too high hopes on the vacation to be stress free the whole time, I think we are all in for something because life happens whether you are in your hometown or in an adjacent, traveling a couple hours away by car or in a totally other country, stuff happens.
Yep. Life happens, and kids are kids, right? Like, my daughter fell out of bed
Mm-hmm.
and landed face first.
And if you're traveling with older kids, it might not be they fall out of bed. It might be that they are like, I don't feel like doing that.
Oh, yeah.
right? Just like they would do that
And
at home and they'll do that on vacation.
and you have to be careful as a parent that like just because you invested time and money into this vacation, suddenly your teen isn't necessarily going to be like, this is boring, this is dumb.
Right. I mean, they're the same person as they were before you
Yes.
invested the time and
They're
money.
not going to change overnight because you're in a new location. So I think managing vacation expectations is huge.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about some ways to do that, like some beginnings, right? First, I think it's important to clarify the purpose that you want the vacation to serve for your family.
And well, what is that as a family? For and I think every family may have different thoughts on what should come out of a vacation. You know, for my family, it's about doing things together, experiencing new things together. And for us personally, we usually involve some sort of educational activity, so or cultural experience that's specific to that area. And that doesn't mean you have to go to another country. Different parts of the United States are very different culturally and have different things to offer. So even if you are road tripping or don't have a lot of time in a place, in Costa Rica, for instance, we took our kids to a Costa Rican school in a remote area of Costa Rica to show them, hey, this is where kids who grew up here go to school versus like this is where what you're used to at home.
Mhm.
So it doesn't also have to be like going to a museum. I think kids often get very bored in museums very quickly, and
So does
especially
this adult. I am so not a museum person. I am not. I wish I could be because I know they're good for you, but like I don't know. I think I have a little ADHD.
but
I can't
like
do it.
so. I mean, if you are more of an outdoorsy type family, like there's lots of things you can learn in nature. When last spring break we took a trip to Iceland, and that was a lot of like hiking and looking at waterfalls and things like that just are landscapes that we don't see every day where we live in Annapolis.
Yeah. I find that even if I don't go far, just being in nature for me personally, like, so when we're talking about what do you want it to do for your family, for me, vacations are always, I want them to be restorative in some way. Like, if sometimes there's an educational component, but generally speaking, I take vacations truly to take a break from the fast-paced life and for a little novelty. And I like beautiful places. So, and whether that's
And I promise Costa Rica is one of them.
right, and so I mean, I really, I always feel good after a vacation if I've gone to some place that I'm like, the most memorable things for me, in addition to the people moments where there's connection, they for me they tend to be natural settings, and that's not the case for everybody. But like, I love a beautiful landscape. I love a hike. I love a swim in a body of water I've never swum in before. Like, I love all of that, and so
And I
that
think
needs to be part of my vacations.
no matter where you're listening from, I mean, like even looking at like the state of Maryland and growing up in New York, like you can go to different parts of a state and be in very different landscapes and cultures. New York City versus upstate New York, up near Buffalo are very different places.
Yeah, and so, but so even if you're not going far, I I think it's important to clarify with first yourself and then the other people in your family you're vacationing with what the purpose is. And there's some of this that might be like declaring this is the purpose. Like, let's say you're going to some place that's like an amazing investment. Your family has never done this before, and you're like, we are going to learn about this place, or we're going to see, we're never going to have a chance to go back to this place geographically again. We're going to like see all the sites. So that might be something that the parents like declare to the kids. This
Mm-hmm.
is the purpose of this vacation, so that they know ahead of time this is going to be action packed. This isn't going to be a time where you wake up and fritter away hours on, you know, Candy Crush on your phone, whatever they're
Yeah.
doing. Um, but if the vacation isn't, if there's a little more wiggle room, then that conversation can be open to the whole family, where it's like, okay, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? And and maybe you work on an itinerary with your family that suits all the needs.
And it's going to depend on the age of your kids.
Yes.
This is different if you're traveling with little kids, tweens, teenagers, young adult children. This is going to look different. That conversation is going to be different. And also, too, how you schedule that vacation is going to be different.
Yeah. And this goes with, like, maybe it doesn't go without saying, I don't know. I was always like, nowhere did I need a vacation from my vacation more than when I was traveling with tiny little ones. Like when my children were toddlers, I remember we went to the beach. It was a family member's beach house actually, but when our kids were little, and my daughter, who at the time was like probably 11 months old, like just shy of a year, she must have eaten every rock. Like she put, like she put every beach item that she wasn't supposed to in her mouth. So she needed constant supervision. We couldn't leave her. She couldn't just sit and play or dig even 2 feet from us because something was going in her mouth that shouldn't be in there. She would have choked. That was, and meanwhile, my son, who was dealing with like sensory overload that like thankfully went away, but like he refused to walk from a certain point to the beach. Like when we got on the path, he would become overwhelmed with the feeling of sand on his feet because he was not yet 3. And like, we had to put him in a backpack or a wheelbarrow and like push him onto the beach until we got to where the sand was more packed, and then he would walk. This was mayhem. It was mayhem. And my husband, and then because my daughter was the age she was, like we were on the beach for like 40 minutes, and then it was her morning nap, and someone had to go back, and then my husband and I didn't see each other, and then by the time she woke up, it was the afternoon nap time, and it was way easier to not vacation than to vacation.
And that might be okay.
Yeah.
And I think like there's also like, if do the parents need to go on a vacation by themselves? Like,
well, if you have the privilege to do so, we never did. My husband and I did not travel by ourselves until our children were, gosh, I think my son was in college, because we didn't have anyone who we could leave. Like we didn't have a grandparent who could, and we didn't trust our children to be alone. We weren't going to leave them.
Yeah.
Great kids. Even just sidebar, if you want to travel by yourself and you're like, our kids could probably handle this, left to their own devices, even great kids make bad choices given the opportunity to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that more than anyone as a school counselor. And I was like, I am not giving my kids the opportunity. Even if they insisted they would have, upheld their end of the bargain, but I didn't give them the chance. So anyway, not everyone has a chance to travel by themselves.
Yeah. And I think if you end up in a situation like Sam's vacation when her kids were younger, I think you need to manage your own expectations, and also and if you have a partner, like if you're traveling with another adult, like is there a way to divvy up time so that like you can still find an hour on the beach of relaxation, Sam?
That's all yeah. But I just remember being physically so tired, right? So so we've got the like, what's this vacation going to do for us, and how can we structure it? And depending on the purpose of the vacation, you also need to decide like, how much are we jamming into one day? Like how much structure are we putting? Are there days where it's okay to do nothing and just like be in this new place playing Candy Crush, or reading your book on the patio of your Airbnb? Just like, I think that's important to understand too. And kids, particularly teenagers, need to be told in advance what the expectations for participation are.
Yeah, and they may need that like couple hours of downtime or that day of downtime themselves.
What we ended up doing with my kids, and again, not every family does this. We have neighbors, and like they used to joke, and they're like, "It's not a vacation if one of us doesn't cry from exhaustion." Like, like that was just like, it was because they were like, go go go, sun up to sundown. Like, let's make sure we have every minute scheduled and take advantage of this new environment. That doesn't work in the Straub household. But what we ended up doing when my kids were teenagers is my husband and I would leave in the morning. We would do an Airbnb, and we would go hike or go to breakfast or walk in the town. Oh yeah, then we just leave them asleep. We would just leave. because they wouldn't get up, and then we'd come back for lunch when they were just rallying, and we would then go someplace as a family in the afternoon, and that worked beautifully. Like, they got less access to wherever we were. My husband and I had a delightful vacations as a result. Have delightful
And I
vacations.
think like figuring that out and being okay with that. Like, it's not the Swiss Family Robinson vacation all the time where everybody's got to be glued together 24/7 and perfectly happy and smiley.
It's not. So again, if I'm sort of jumping around, I wanted to kind of emphasize this at another point, but if you come from a family where like maybe your parents put this emphasis on kind of big events, or maybe there's some tension in your family for some reason, and you're like, this vacation is going to be our opportunity to smooth the tension, and then you get on the vacation and it doesn't smooth the tension, gosh, you can be really in for some disappointments when everybody shows up just as they were yesterday in a different house, you know?
Yep.
And like, I don't know. So some of that's internal work we need to do to make sure that we don't bring our unrealistic expectations, and like, I call it failing a test you didn't know you were taking. You know,
Mm-hmm.
when you go into a vacation and you're like, everything's going to be awesome, and then your children act the way they always do, or the tension that you and your spouse were experiencing before the vacation suddenly shows up on vacation again, and you're like, couldn't we just give this a rest for 5 days? It's like, why would you think that was going to happen? Like, you're still the same people, right?
Yeah.
So your family members accidentally fail tests they didn't know they were taking because your expectations were silent, and that's not fair, right? So, and on vacation or anywhere, sidebar, kind of, right? Like, anyway.
So I think as you're prepping and planning for a vacation, then you need to manage your own expectations.
And you know what? Sorry. Keep going.
Go ahead, Sam.
No, I'm sorry. I couldn't get off of my failing a test you couldn't take. Yes, you do need to manage your own expectations, and you said it way more professionally than I did.
In true Melissa and Sam mode. So definitely kind of managing your expectations. People are going to show up as they are and as they were yesterday. So
Yeah.
Don't set yourself or your kids up to fail.
Yeah.
Like, if your kid struggles with sensory issues at home and you bring them to the beach, don't expect the sand to suddenly be okay.
He didn't. That was why we were surprised. This was totally new behavior, but it.
Oh, and don't be surprised if new behaviors do show up on vacation,
Yes,
or
that's a
new
good point.
anxieties or new worries for a child, like sleeping in a strange place, like bedtime routines. If you are traveling to a different time zone, like that can really mess up a kid's sleep cycle. And then kids are cranky and irritable when they don't sleep. And then, okay, hey, we're in a place that doesn't have the kids' chicken nuggets that they like, and now they're hangry.
Uh-huh.
So kind of expecting all of that and prefacing that and having conversations before the vacation takes place.
Yeah, my husband's better at that than I am. Like, he's better at just rolling with what is. And I'm like, no, this has to be kind of like picture perfect in some way. And he's like, yeah, but that's not going to be happy. I mean, you'll get a good picture out of that, but like, it won't be a fun outing.
You'll get your Instagram photo, Sam.
Yeah, right. Like that's. I won't say that I go that far, but if there's a spectrum, I lean more towards the just for the gram kind of thing, and he leans more for the who the hell cares kind of, like, this is for us. And I think together we actually make kind of a nice pair, because I have
probably can balance it out and meet somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, like I'm like more of like, let's memorialize this, let's make sure we remember this, and he's like, let's make sure we do what's called for right now.
Yeah. And incorporating fun for everyone. And you may have kids that have different interests, and it might be that you're doing an activity one day that is fun for one of your kids and not for the other, and then vice versa on another day, and a day where it's like, hey, this is parents' choice.
We're doing that, right?
And you might have a grumbly teen while you're walking around a museum that you wanted to go to, but the kid didn't want to go to.
Mm-hmm. And then you might say, well, you can stay in the lobby then. We'll see
Yeah.
you in 90 minutes or whatever after we've done our tour.
And I think Sam's idea, like, if you are traveling with teens, like, that aren't going to roll out of bed and they're going to miss the breakfast at the hotel or something that happens in the morning, well, so be it, and be okay with that. But you also have to make sure you're okay with that before you leave for the vacation.
Right. So that there's no hard feelings because we don't need to like take a guilt trip on our trip.
Yeah.
Right.
And like, don't kind of putting the pressure on, like, oh, because we spent money on this is going to make it fun, or like,
Yes.
that, I think that expectation comes up a lot, especially like it's not inexpensive to travel and it is probably considered a privilege, like, but don't put that extra pressure on it. Just because you paid for something, it may not make it fun.
Money does put pressure on it
Yeah.
like because you're like, well, I'm investing in this and I want a return on my investment. Right.
And I think that's a skewed view of a vacation. And I think the value in a vacation needs to come from, these are shared family experiences that we had. These are memories that we're making. And, I'll sit here and laugh about what happened in Costa Rica. Like, literally in a 2-week trip, we visited the local medical clinic that was like in a shack in rural Costa Rica, multiple times.
Like, who is this family? Right. It's say lovey. That's what happened. Right.
So, but it's really about setting the tone. And I think if you can set the right tone and focus on, the investment isn't necessarily financial, but it's in other aspects of it, you're going to end up having a happy vacation, even when things go awry, because things will inevitably go awry when you travel with children.
Yes, they will. And also, something I like to think about with vacations and also just with any experience is once you have an experience, you're a different person than you were right before that experience. Whether
Mm-hmm.
that's a conversation with a friend, like we're having this conversation and it's making me laugh and it's making me think about vacations that I've had in the past and it's making me think about upcoming ones and we haven't had this conversation before, right? So in some ways I am a different person now here in the middle of this, and I will be at the end, than I was before we started. And that's the case too when you travel. Like it can be transformative, not necessarily hugely transformative always, but if you think about like what the vacation ends, but what can you and or your family members take with you into the future from the experience? I think that that's actually a pretty good reframe. And the experience might be something or the answer might be something concrete, like we went to that museum and we learned about the culture that we just visited. But it also might be, you know what, we just learned flexibility, or my kids had to fend for themselves at breakfast because and I always am like the one who makes breakfast because we weren't going to we weren't going to sit around for 4 hours while they overslept, you know? Um like that, those are fine skills and things to have.
No, it's a great point. You're going to have a new experience,
Mhm, mhm.
no matter what that experience is.
And we began by talking about sometimes we schedule vacations and then we need a vacation from the vacation. So, and I think some of what we're talking about, like just like adapting or changing your mindset can reduce that. And that might mean, like I joked about my neighbors whose mantra is like, it's not a vacation if one of us doesn't cry, right? Maybe like the day before you shut her down a little bit. Like you don't have quite as like frenetic a day on your last day before travel, or you do whatever you need to do to plan not just your arrival but also your exit so that you come back in one piece.
Yeah. And I think also, too, if you have the opportunity to like schedule a down day,
Mm,
like come back on Saturday, because then you have Sunday, and then you don't have a down day before going back to work on Monday. Like, I think if you can buffer in that day and like kind of wind down at the end of the vacation and not, don't have to cram in everything like your neighbors sound like they do. It's really important. And like having that expectation or knowing that you're coming home and you don't have to turn around and get home the night before you're going back to work the next morning, because that could make for stress for the parents, and then
Well,
your kids feel that stress.
and also, I, as an educator for 26 years, I cannot tell you how many times I will like some kid like beautiful, like with tan, like they're tan, like clearly got color on their face, they show up bleary eyed in school. Like, we got in at 2 a.m. last night from Aruba. Like, I don't know, should I cry me a river here? Just it, they're exhausted and they're somewhat useless at school the next day when that's the case. And again, not every flights get delayed. Sometimes this is the
Things
only option.
happen.
Yes, exactly. But if you are in charge and you can plan the buffer, I think everybody wins.
My upcoming spring break trip, there was a purposefully done buffer, because we've done the trips with no buffer and it doesn't really feel good.
No, I like a buffer. I like an unpacking and grocery shopping day. The next day before I have to do anything.
Yeah.
And just and going through the mail and all the things that accumulated.
The last trip
Or
we came back from, I found it was very calming to me. I'm the grocery shopper, but I do more grocery shopping online. I had the order set like before we left the place to be delivered for when we got home,
brilliant.
to come home to groceries. And honestly, it was like the greatest thing ever for me, because inevitably you're coming home to like an empty fridge, right? Like
Yeah,
everybody's like doing the vacation clean out before, and it's like, well, the kids are still going to be hungry. Like,
that's brilliant. I did that a few times this fall, and I'll tell you, I never ordered groceries before, but it's more expensive to do so. For us, it was like, again, we didn't have a buffer. We were getting home late and going to work the next day, so I ordered groceries to show up the next day, and I still have like almond butter filled peanut pretzel bites in my closet. I don't eat gluten and I don't love almond butter. So like my husband's like, "Why did you order these?" I was like, "I don't know. The shopper just brought them." Just like the random zucchini. I didn't order a zucchini either, but we're going to have to use that. So the Instacart thing is great, but I still have almond filled pretzel bites from Instacart this fall.
I'm not an Instacart user, so. But
Okay, so I said this earlier. I was planning to bring this up at the end, but vacations bring up family dynamics like nothing else, right? We've talked about a bunch of them, but one of the things we have not talked about is sibling rivalries, sibling dynamics. You've got multiple kids, so do I, and they can't escape each other on vacation. So if they don't like each other sometimes during their regular life, that's gonna amplify when you're on vacation, potentially.
yeah.
The other thing it can do, though, is if you've got kids who are putting on masks at home because they're posturing for their friend group, and they don't have access to those friend groups, they may actually show up more real, and they may connect on vacation for the first time that they weren't doing at home.
And vacation, if it does help also take away some of the other stress that a kid may be experiencing at school or just navigating themselves, you may also then get a more authentic version of your kid who isn't dealing with, oh, I'm worried about my math test tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if conflict happens on vacation, which it will, between your kids, between you and your partner, between you and your kid, like it will. Please, oh please, don't get yourself in a rut, because then you're just like stuck in the past. You're thinking about the conflict in the future, which is like whatever that day's vacation plans have in store for you. If you bring the past into that, you're going to dampen those. So like think of them as, it's information, and you're not damned.
And there are moments in life that are going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Location
Mm-hmm.
doesn't change sibling rivalry.
All right, let's end. Melissa, tell me your worst vacation story. Do you have one?
Ooh.
I'm stumping you. I asked that because I want to tell my worst vacation
So
story.
you tell yours, and while
Right.
you're talking, I'll probably end up thinking about something.
Okay, so when my children were younger, again, we vacationed very much like my family did, because that was the resources we had. So we hadn't really taken our kids on any kind of like fancy, have to pay a lot for it other than like road tripping, paying for gas, you know. And my husband's job situation had been up in the air. We moved to Maryland, and there was a chance that his job situation wasn't going to stick, and we were going to have to move back from where we went to. But it stuck. Like last minute, it stuck, and we were like, "Yay, we can stay." We all kind of liked it here, and so he started this new position. But we knew that he wasn't going to accumulate tons of vacation days. So we had about 5 weeks between when we knew that his job situation had fallen into place and when he was starting the new one. And my kids' spring break fell in that, and so did mine for school. So we were like, let's schedule a vacation because we can't really travel this summer. This is March. So I asked a travel agent to help. And she's like, I can't find anything this late for your age group in your price range for the days that you can do, except for this Disney cruise. And we have not done anything Disney, mostly because as a child, like again, I hadn't gone to Disney World or anything, and when we had funds, like we weren't throwing it. I've never been to Disney World in my whole life, and neither of my kids still. But I was like, all right, we'll do this Disney cruise. I'm not a Disney person. I recognize there are Disney people. Like I would rather go hike in a beautiful place than have Disney music or people walking around in large chipmunk characters, on my vacation. So we're on this Disney cruise, and I will say Disney thinks of everything. So like that, like my kids thought it was pretty cool. My husband and I were like, it's noisy everywhere. There's people everywhere. Like this was not for
Total overstimulation,
total
Sam.
overstimulation. So there was that, and then on the ride back, there was like a sort of a layover. Like the cruise got in, and then we had 5 or 6 hours to kill before our flight took off. So we were walking around. I can't even remember which city in Florida, Miami. I don't even. It doesn't matter. And we go out to lunch, and my husband ate something bad, and he spent and he started to get like, he wasn't sick until we were getting ready to get on the plane. He's like, I don't feel so good. We get on the plane. He spent the whole plane ride vomiting in the bathroom, the whole plane ride. So it's me and two kids. We are on a plane with a college team of some sort of young men whose language was horrible. And my children, and I don't mean they didn't speak English, I meant their curse words were prevalent.
Oh no.
And so my kids I don't know if they were 7 and 9 or 8 and 10. They were not very old. And so I'm like monitoring, and they're tired. Their father's vomiting in the bathroom. They're like, I don't know. The whole thing was just, and we get in super late, so we're tired. And it had snowed. So in Maryland, like we were in flip-flops and shorts, so we had to go through 4 inches of snow to get to the car. Anyway, long story short, that vacation has such it's such a bad taste in our mouth. Like even though there were moments of fun and our kids enjoyed parts of it, I think about that vacation with nothing but disdain. Like I will.
I think I avoided a vacation like that. So last spring break, we were debating where to go. It was getting late to start like booking anything. And my husband and I decided, and I felt this inclination. I think there's this thing with like Disney that like you feel like you should take your kids there. Honestly, it's not a place I actually want to go to. I think it's going to be very overstimulating. If I were to go to Disney, I have said I want to go just my husband and I to experience aspects of Disney, but I don't want to wait in long lines with cranky kids. Like
Yeah.
in the heat, like, and with like everything crazy overpriced, because I feel like all I'm gonna do is end up saying no to a lot of things and like just be the no parent. So it's actually not a thing, but I I thought the kids might like it. And I was like, oh, maybe like we can go. Like, so we looked into and almost booked an RV trip from Maryland down to Disney, because Disney has an RV park.
Uh-huh.
And we were going to stay in the RV park and do spring break in Disney. Okay. So I am literally like, I have it all queued up. And I said to my husband, I was like, before I pay and hit like this like non-refundable expensive button on my computer, why don't we ask our older two if they want to go to Disney?
Oh.
We turn to our boys, and we go, boys, do you guys want to go to Disney for spring break? Expecting this like very excited response, like we're gonna go make like Star Wars lightsabers and all these exciting things. And the response we got was like, maybe. And I was like, oh heck no.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
We are not doing that. And we ended up in Iceland instead. And the kids were thrilled. They were excited. We still have not been to Disney, so and I honestly don't think I'm planning a Disney vacation. I would say the only other really bad experience, the Costa Rica life experiences were not overly pleasant, and what started that trip was also really not pleasant. So it was during COVID. So airlines were not functioning great. We almost missed our flight entirely. We finally get on the airplane. My husband realizes he left his bag at TSA.
Oh no.
And deboards the plane with the risk of not being able to get back on after we almost didn't get on in the first place. So now I am sitting there with 3 young children going to another country that is predominantly Spanish speaking, and my Spanish is minimal.
Yep.
And kind of anxious, scared myself to travel with 3 young kids by myself. He ultimately got back on the plane at the last second after I was in tears and literally begged them to reopen the door to let him back on.
Yeah, and I'm sure all of our listeners have these stories, right? And so there you go. That happened on your Costa Rica story, the scorpion sting, the broken nose, all of the stitches, like, but the vacation has positive memories. And so, and to some extent the Disney cruise does too, but mostly no. Mostly no.
I think I've purposely kind of blocked out some of that, from my like happy memories on the trip, but yeah.
All right. Well, if you're listening and you have vacation recommendations for either one of us, or hilarious vacation fails, and we're not talking the relationship kind, but like the kinds we've been sharing, like, oh, please tell us, please, like, delight me. Tell me your vacation fails and make me smile and laugh with you and commiserate. ParentingShrinkWrapped@gmail.com. Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Parenting Shrink Wrapped. We love you. We love your kids. Thank you for raising the next generation of world changers. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride called parenthood here at Parenting Shrink Wrapped. We hope today's episode gave you some useful tools and maybe even a few laughs to help you navigate the twists and turns of raising teens and kids.
Remember, parenting is a journey, not a destination. And no matter where you are on the road, we're here to help you stay on course. Whether it's monumental meltdowns, teenage turmoil, or just the everyday chaos, you don't have to travel this path alone.
So until next time, keep your seatbelt fastened, your sense of humor intact, and your eyes on the road. We'll be back soon with more compassionate conversations and practical strategies to support you and your family.
Don't forget to subscribe to Parenting Shrink Wrapped wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. And if you've enjoyed today's show, we'd love it if you'd leave us a review and share it with a friend.
If you have suggestions for topics you'd like to see us cover in the future, feel free to send us an email at parentingshrinkwrapped@gmail.com.
Until we meet again, take care and enjoy the ride.